As we embark on this exercise to assess the opportunities and benefits offered to the African oil and gas industry by the AFCFTA, it is imperative that we ponder over the primary rationale for the agreement establishing the AFCFTA. In this regard, the paragraphs of the preamble to the agreement are instructive. Embedded in the said paragraphs are the following strikingly unique features of the free trade area contemplated under the agreement. One, a common market with free movement of goods and services. Two, reduced or eliminated tariffs and non-tariff barriers to trade and investment. Three, uniform and mutually advantageous rules of trade. And four, enhanced collaboration between or amongst African nations. Against this backdrop, and with guarantees provided by the principles of reciprocity, national treatment, most favored nation treatment, and substantial liberalization that underpin the agreement, there is no doubt that the benefits and opportunities of the AFCFTA to various sectors of national life are abundant. Particularly within the context of the oil and gas industry, the full realization of an effective free trade area will potentially curb the vulnerability of African countries' international oil markets and place African oil producing nations in a position to benefit from both global and domestic markets. Inevitably, intra-Africa petrochemical trading will become much easier than it has in the past. Undoubtedly, the AFCFTA in itself presents a larger market for African oil and gas producers than pre-existing national markets. Accordingly, said countries having the advantage of favorable trading routes within the area will be presented with an opportunity to establish a firmer footing in the sector. Undeniably, the AFCFTA would trigger substantial investments into the energy sector by providing investors with larger markets with lower risks, thus affording them the opportunity of undertaking larger revenue projects on a regional scale than on a national scale. The AFCFTA's protocol for the reasonable resolution of investor-state disputes would foreseeably boost investor confidence, particularly in capital-intensive oil and power projects, and further reduce investment risk in the eyes of the investor. AFCFTA has the potential to increase local content and local participation in Africa's oil and gas industry through the progressive liberalization of trading services, which necessarily include the free movement of skilled workers and expertise, particularly within the petroleum sector. This will create opportunities for knowledge transfer and ultimately the enhancement of indigenous technical human capacity. The aforementioned notwithstanding, the fundamental questions to be answered through deliberations at this summit are: one, how can state parties to the agreement establishing the AFCFTA position themselves to derive maximum value from the opportunities earlier touched on? What should the policy posturing of state parties to the agreement be? If the AFCFTA is going to be useful, what realistic timelines must state parties commit themselves to? As the focus is placed on leveraging the AFCFTA for optimum benefit, factors that militate against achieving the objectives of the AFCFTA must be borne in mind and must guide recommended responses to the fundamental questions outlined earlier. The current coronavirus pandemic has stalled and continues to stall the effective implementation of the AFCFTA. In what is now commonly referred to as the new normal, public health considerations have triggered the imposition of tighter conditions for the movement of persons and goods between and amongst nations. This necessary trend appears inconsistent with the AFCFTA's feature of free movement. Also, the continuous threat of global warming, the rapidly progressing energy transition, the acceleration of global decarbonization efforts, which has culminated in a halt on investment in petroleum projects from some quarters, may be impediments to the growth of the oil and gas sector in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, the unavailability of essential infrastructure such as good roads, ports, amongst others, required to facilitate the ease of movement and trade in goods within the AFCFTA is also a factor that should inform the way forward towards a full implementation of this noble idea within the petroleum sector. I am confident that at the close of this summit, the panel sessions have yielded pragmatic strategies that will enable state parties, particularly oil and gas producing nations and petroleum support service providers, derive maximum value from the AFCFTA. The themes of the 4 panel sessions scheduled to take place during the summit appear to cover themes germane to the subject at hand, and I wish to commend the organizers at this stage while wishing all participants fruitful deliberations. I thank you for your kind attention, and may God bless us all in our homeland, Ghana.